11 months ago, I talked about a touching story between man and alligator. A bond that I think is probably one of a kind, where a man named Joe Hinney had an emotional support alligator named Wally. That combination sounds like something out of a Saturday morning cartoon, but it was real life. Wally was by all definitions not aggressive, docile, and pretty sweet. So much so that he even served as inspiration for one of the Loki variants in the Loki television series. No one, not even God, knows why Wally refused to bite anyone or show any signs of aggression. He lived on a diet of Cheetos and chicken legs, not too dissimilar from just your normal everyday gamer diet.
Another spot in the wild. Joe agreed to take him in. Today, Wally lives on Cheetos and chicken legs in Joe's house near Hershey, Pennsylvania.
He just chills hard as fuck. Joe would take him on walks, even took him around for people to pet him and meet him. And Wally never once lashed out or anything of the sort. He would take Wally to nursing homes. He'd have kids hang around Wally, like hugging him and playing with Wally, and no issue ever. It truly goes against the very nature of an alligator. He reportedly spawned in at Disney World, and I have no doubt that Wally probably came out of the pussy of Mickey Mouse himself, so was given this gift of pacifism and just magical jubilation, I guess. And Joe ended up with him. And they had a great bond. And I'm using the past tense because the update to this story is a really sad one. Wally got kidnapped. I'm not making that up either. Apparently, a prankster came and took Wally from his pen, dumped Wally into one of the neighbors' backyards, who obviously panicked because it's a fucking prehistoric killing machine out there. So they called a trapper to come get Wally, who obviously isn't going to be able to identify Wally. It's not like you could eyeball it and be like, oh, that's the celebrity, household alligator pet right there. It's not like Wally was traveling around with his bodyguards or had like makeup and wardrobe with him. He had no idea to distinguish Wally from a normal alligator, so the trapper did his job, got Wally, and relocated Wally to a swamp that had like 20 other alligators in it, and he hasn't been seen since.
Hello, I'm Joe Hinney. I'm Wally's dad. We're still trying to find Wally. We've not had any luck finding him. We do know who relocated him, but he's not giving up any information, and legally he doesn't have to.
Yeah, but why wouldn't he just tell you where he dumped the alligator? So I'm going to go into the more nitty-gritty here, get into the weeds of this situation, but I'm going to play a couple clips from stream where I went over more of the basics about how this kidnapping went down and the douchebag prankster motivation behind it, I suppose. But this update from Joe was really eyebrow raising for me, because why would the trapper not just share that? He's protecting it like it's the fucking Krabby Patty secret formula. Why not just say where you dumped the alligator? Like, you did your job already. You did a fine job, as Joe says in this video. He doesn't blame the trapper. How was he supposed to know? But why not just tell him where you dumped the alligator? Like, he shouldn't like, the way Joe's talking about it makes it sound like this guy's expecting to be tortured for the information, like it's a scene out of 24 with Jack Bauer putting the jumper cables on his nipples to figure out what swamp he dumped Wally off on. Like, it shouldn't be that big of a deal to the trapper. Just say, like, hey, sorry about the confusion here. This is where I dumped Wally. Like, I mean, they have the records. The trapper knows what alligator is being discussed here. Why not just say it? Like, it just, to me, it doesn't seem like it should be that big of an issue that he's going to be fighting tooth and nail to keep it a secret. That just is miserable for Joe, who clearly cares a lot about Wally. I covered a lot more of their relationship in my first video, but Wally is a pet that means a lot to Joe. And he really seems to want him back, obviously. So why not just give like that little bit of information to help? But anyway, here's more of the basics around what happened with the Wally abduction. The alligator you made a video on is lost in Georgia. I hate to say it, but Wally's absolutely dead. It's a shame. This is actually a super sad story. I made a video on this, I think it was like a year ago. The emotional support alligator, his name's Wally. And I didn't know this at the time, but he was actually in Loki. He was one of the Loki variants, the alligator one. And a week ago, Wally was taken from his home. And the owner believes it was part of a prank, but after investigating, they've deduced that the alligator was dumped into a pond nearby, which had like 20 other alligators, and Wally still hasn't been found, so it's very likely that he's been killed and eaten. Wally was a completely domesticated, docile alligator, which there's nothing else like that. Oh, I just typed in alligator and expected that to come up.
He is a federally licensed emotional support alligator.
Actually,
he is far
so
from a
cute.
typical alligator. We're gonna go have fun today, huh? Ooh, you like it, huh? I got your tail. I don't.
Wally just eats Cheetos and chills. It's so adorable. And the owner here, he talks a lot about how important Wally is to him. Like, the owner went through a lot of hardship. He talks about how down he'd been for so long, having very bad thoughts, and then Wally stumbled into his life, and it really helped turn everything around for him. It's a heartwarming story, and some heartless, evil people stole Wally last week. Oh, visiting nursing homes and splashing around in Philly's Love Park fountain, meeting with the mayor, and smiling contently in his red harness. Aww. Henny and Wally were visiting friends in Brunswick when someone took the gator from his pen in the early morning hours of April 21st. Wally was stolen by some jerk who likes to drop alligators off into someone's yard to terrorize them. Once discovered, they called the Department of Natural Resources and got a trapper. The trapper came and got Wally, dropped him off in a swamp with about 20 other alligators that same day. Oh, I see. I got my details wrong. So the prankster dropped Wally off into someone's yard to scare them. What a fucking scoundrel. And then a trapper was called, and the trapper got the alligator, not knowing it was Wally, obviously, because you would never expect an alligator to just be like a pet, and put it in a swamp with 20 others. So it's what usually happens, like a domesticated animal getting put back into the wild, it doesn't survive. Just to further explain what happened here, so Joe was on a trip with his friends, and he returned to his friend's house where Wally was pinned up there. And when he got home, he checked on Wally, said the gate was secure. Wally tried to follow him inside, but then told Wally to stay outside. And so he did. Apparently blew some bubbles, according to Joe. And then 3 hours later, Joe woke up and checked on Wally again, but this time, Wally wasn't there. He said there's no way he could get out of the enclosure. He checked the latch on the gate, and it wasn't completely latched. He walked around the enclosure to see if there were signs that Wally had escaped, and there were no tracks whatsoever. There's some tall grass, and there would be tracks. He would have left a track. He's almost 70 pounds. And since he didn't see any tracks, and he saw no signs that Wally had scaled the chain link fence, he said Wally was too lazy for that. He eventually started to gather through reports in the area that what happened was a prankster had grabbed Wally and dumped him in someone's yard to scare them. That is a fucking unhinged prank. I don't know who is so confident and comfortable around alligators to just approach them carefree and use them as a prank prop. This is a creature that has barely evolved in millions of years because it excels at killing in its environment. And yet we have some fucking milk-drinking goober that had no problem picking it up and throwing it in someone's yard just as like a ha-ha gut-busting comedy routine, probably for like a TikTok challenge. That blows my mind. Not even Steve Irwin, the fucking crocodile hunter, would be that confident around an alligator, I imagine. But anyway, the story continues to get odd. The neighbor who was on the other end of this like Call of Duty kill streak alligator drop actually fucking wrangled the alligator herself as well as another person and secured Wally to a truck. Now, keep in mind, they had no idea that this was the friendly alligator. For all they knew, this could have been the most vicious alligator that had ever infiltrated the state. And they still went after it, secured him to a truck, and then met the trapper at a gas station and handed him over. I just can't believe that there's 3 people this comfortable around alligators already, outside of Joe. So anyway, Joe said that the trapper told him initially that Wally had been released into the Okefenokee National Wildlife Refuge. Okefenokee I've never heard of before. That sounds like something Lucy would say in the Fallout television series. But anyway, this was initially where Wally was said to have been dumped, but then Henny said that the trapper told him he released Wally into a swamp on private property. Now Henny's saying that the trapper won't tell us where he released Wally. The DNR also confirms that protocol was followed correctly about the nuisance alligator call in the neighbor's backyard. All of it is properly documented, and it's reported that the trapper handled it appropriately doing everything by the book, and they don't have any additional information about the reported stolen / missing alligator. And like I said, Joe doesn't fault the trapper or the DNR, saying that they did their job right. And on top of this shit cake sat this little cherry here, where the cyberspace started to turn on Joe and call him a scammer, speculating that the GoFundMe pages that were set up to raise money to fund the search and any legal expenses were a scam. So one of them, which was to pay legal bills, had raised $3,200 as of the week of the article, and another one was supposed to be for a search and reward for Wally's return. He suspended the second page until the situation is cleared up, according to his lawyer, and is denying the accusations and saying that they haven't supported it with any evidence, which he's right. There's no evidence of this being a scam. The internet also speculated that Wally was unhealthy and in poor care with Joe, which Joe obviously denies and says that he took Wally to the vet frequently, which I do believe, because it seems like Wally was Joe's entire world. Everything Joe did, Wally did with him. Joe had Wally merch, Wally everything. And people are saying that this is all some kind of fraudulent scam to get money, and it's not real, or Joe's behind it all. He's the evil puppet master behind this nefarious scheme. And this happens with every situation ever. No matter what it is, no matter how cut and dry a situation appears to be, the internet takes the stupid stance and always defaults to some kind of conspiratorial spin on it. So in this case, they think because of the GoFundMe raising money, that's the actual primary purpose, to get $3,200. Let me go ahead and break this down for you. Joe was earning far more than $3,200 by having Wally as the emotional support alligator who was landing fucking Hollywood roles. Why would he do this and fucking phone in Wally for $3,200 through GoFundMe? That is nonsensical moron brain take right there. That is so fucking dumb. He stands to make significantly more doubloons by having Wally with him in good health and continuing to tour Wally around at nursing homes, at parties. He was taking Wally to a Phillies game, which fell through due to a misunderstanding, but he was doing a lot with Wally that was lucrative for him. So why the fuck would he do something like this for $3,200? That's pennies compared to what he stood to continue making with Wally. That is, I highly doubt there's any type of fishiness afoot here with Joe behind it all. That would be the craziest fucking plot twist of all time, and as of right now, there's no evidence to support that theory, even in the slightest. What it seems to be here is that legitimately just some stupid asshole came into that property, took Wally out of the pen, dumped him into the neighbor's yard, and eventually that trapper got a hold of Wally, following protocol, dumped Wally in a swamp, and since then Joe has been feverishly searching for Wally and trying to get him home, doing everything he can, posting updates. He hired a lawyer to help deal with this complete mess of a situation, obviously. And this whole thing does not appear to be any deeper than some douchebag took Wally. And now Joe is desperately trying to get his emotional support alligator back, who has been his best friend for a long time. And it's just extremely sad, it really is. But anyway, I just wanted to give an update to this story. I'm hoping I'm wrong about Wally being dead. I just know what happens when a domesticated animal gets released back into the wild. It usually just doesn't go well, and it's already been 2 weeks, and they still haven't been able to find Wally yet. But I really do wish that Joe and Wally reunite, and Wally's totally fine. He goes back to eating Cheetos and being all happy again. And yeah, just that's really about it. Wishing the best there. See ya.